All right, what's up, y'all? It's Lauren, aka Nubia420, and today I'm going to do something I've actually never done before at scale. I think I've maybe told two or three people about this at this point in time, and that's actually how I got started on my cannabis journey. Uh, my journey comes with a little bit of guilt about it because it happened on a very slippery slope where you have two options, and you can either fall into a deep addiction and depression, or you can rise up out of it and choose to tackle your grief and be a whole person again. And um and I chose the latter of those two. So if you don't know me in real life, many of you probably don't. uh, I was raised by a single mother, phenomenal woman by all accounts of the word. You want to talk about somebody making miracles happen for their children, making something out of nothing, turning a dime into a dollar, like that was my mother. I never wanted for anything. And unfortunately, she had the genetic mutation, the BRCA2 gene, and she had breast cancer several times. And the last time it was the third go round, she it metastasized to her liver and her spine, and she just wasn't able to recover from it. And it happened at a pretty stressful time already in my life, at least, I think in all of our lives, because 3 weeks before we got married, we found out that her cancer was back and it had spread. And when you discover those things, everything happens really, really fast, from doctor's appointments to oncologist appointments to more doctor's appointments to now we need to come up with a chemo cocktail to changing hospitals because, the one that we were going to, the doctor, it just wasn't attentive enough. So we ended up going to some really aggressive chemo, driving her over there, uh, like 2 times a week, commuting an hour to Fox Chase Cancer Center. And that was, our marriage. That was the first 6 months of our marriage together, was, chemo treatments, hospitals, and then staying in hospitals, sleeping in hospitals, in the hospital. And it was just really, really stressful. And then it was no sleeping at all for me. So just to, I guess, paint the timeline here, um, my mother was admitted to the hospital February 1st. I drove her over. February, I want to say 6. I got a call from the attending physician that, her prognosis wasn't good. She wasn't going to get better. Like, this was it. I needed to start making plans. Um, as a 26-year-old who that was my only parent, to say I was lost would be an understatement. I was fucking terrified. Uh, I think in a way I still kind of am, because like that was my moral compass, that was my safety net, that was my everything, literally. And to be told, like, very coldly, it wasn't a very warm phone call by any means of the word, that this was it, and she wasn't gonna be in my life anymore. Like, that was just, it took everything out of me. It was like the scene when Doctor Strange gets his soul knocked out of him by Ancient One. Like, that's was the real life manifestation of that scene. Like, I completely had my soul knocked out of me. We had already planned prior. a trip to Iceland to celebrate my birthday and our honeymoon. And it was absolutely crazy because, she was admitted to the hospital February 1st. She passed away February 17th. Her funeral was February 27th, and my birthday was March 2nd. Her birthday, or what would have been her 59th birthday, was March 5th, and that was the day we were flying out. So, on top of just the actual grief and the newness and having to accept it, there were birthdays and a non-refundable trip planned. But I really wanted to go on this trip as broken as I was, because I needed to get away. I needed to be somewhere where absolutely no one knew me and no one had questions. No one was offering me sympathy. Um, and I could just be in my mind. I had so many things racing through my mind all the time. Like, I couldn't focus on anything. I couldn't do anything. I was just so sad all of the time. And even when I would try to do things and enjoy things, I just couldn't. I was just sad. Like, I didn't know what joy was at that time. Obviously, we now know that that's called depression. But at that time, to put words to it, mental health in the Black community wasn't in 2015 what it is right now, and in 2021. And I'm so happy to see the progress of that, and how, the leaps and bounds that we're making in that acceptance and destigmatizing that. But I didn't have the vocabulary, I didn't have the words, and I was just broken. And we landed in Iceland, and I, in a moment of self-awareness and clarity, decided that I really wanted my wife to be able to enjoy her honeymoon, and that my wife deserved to have a spouse who was going to share that joy with her. Um, Now, previously, one of the things that people talk about with depression and grief and everything is that you feel like you have nothing to lose. And then feeling like you have nothing to lose because you just don't care about anything, you don't care about life, like you have nothing to lose. You make dumb decisions. You make not smart decisions. And one of my not smart decisions, looking back on it now, was that I read an article about tourists visiting Iceland and having weed dealers waiting for them at the airport. Someone commented on this article, in support of it. So I reached out to the person who commented on it, because what the fuck, I have nothing to lose. And it was like some back and forth, and he was basically like, when you land and you get here, hit me up and I'll make sure y'all are good. In so many words, not in that terminology. So we landed, hit him up. Well, once we actually got to the city, which is Reykjavik, we hit him up. We met up. We exchanged money. He gave us flour, and we went back to our Airbnb. There was some other shit in there too, but that's another story for a whole nother day. Um, there was, I would say, I had tried before. Usually around Kai's birthday, she's a New Year's Day baby, so New Year's Eve, um, we I would take some money out and let her just buy some stuff, celebrate her birthday. But it never, like, nothing ever worked for me. It would make me itchy. It would make me just, I didn't feel anything. And that was the first time that I actually felt intoxicated. I actually felt high. I felt clarity. Like, I was walking around in a brain fog for weeks upon weeks upon weeks. I wasn't sleeping. Um, I would I guess what is essentially the point of passing out from exhaustion into bed, but wake up, 2 hours later, still equally exhausted. Like there wasn't any rest for me. There wasn't any quality sleep for me. And that was the first night that I actually felt like I rested. And I was like, wow, that actually works. So to back up, when we were at the hospital and the doctors are like, oh, there's nothing, there's nothing more that we can do. There's no other chemo treatment. If we try to treat this one thing, is going to mess up something else. And it's just a vicious circle that we really can't do anything about. So I started researching alternative therapies, and one of them was phoenix tears or Rick Simpson oil. And there's this guy out of Canada who pretty much, I guess, the grandfather of cannabis concentration, because he was making this really really high potency THC oil, really really high, that was supposed to be helping people with their cancers, curing them. There's all sort of claims for Rick Simpson oil and what it can do. I can't speak to the validity of it being a cure for anything. That's not my wheelhouse. But I will say that seeing that and watching the documentary on YouTube, you guys should definitely check it out if you haven't. I um I became more interested in the therapeutic uses of cannabis in that. So that was already planted. That seed had already been planted in me. Then to go and see what it did for me personally in Iceland, like I think the fact that I came across that, I won't say research, but that anecdotal evidence really kind of opened up. Um, it opened me up to experiencing cannabis and on a more therapeutic level, which is why also my approach is so different to it, because I didn't start smoking weed until I was 26. Like I was a whole ass adult before I decided to, smoke or consume regularly, because I don't always smoke. There's some times I'll go days without smoking, maybe an edible, maybe even not. It really depends on how I'm feeling. But seeing the therapeutic uses of it, and then also seeing, Western medicine fail, because that's what happened. Like Western medicine, in my opinion, it failed my mom, because if it worked, she'd still be here. Like, she would still be in this realm, and she's not. And that was a reckoning that I had to take on my own, and a reckoning that cannabis has actually helped me take, because I'm able to focus and I'm able to concentrate on one single thing. Now, I am a child of dare, you know, be sixth grade, dare. Don't do drugs, don't drink alcohol, you'll kill yourself, you'll kill other people, you'll become an addict, you'll lose everything that you own. And I think the process of dare really kind of jaded me to the fact that there are natural medicines that help, that have been used for thousands of years, that have only recently been criminalized because they've been used by indigenous people, by people of color, by people who, the government feels is a threat to the makeup of, the country. Oh no, women smoke weed and they want to have sex with black men, or these hippies are out here smoking weed, protesting wars and stuff like that. And it's just a decay on society. Like, the war on drugs has just been one major decay on society when you really really look at it. And that affected me. Like I had to go back and reteach myself that there's a whole entire subset of these drugs that have been criminalized that nature provides us. These things are not made in the lab. They don't have any sort of harmful byproducts in them. Shrooms and other psychedelics, peyote and cannabis, like these are things that people are now starting to consume to microdose in order to help them on their mental health journey. And it's something that helped me on my mental health journey, but I didn't have the words to describe it because, when you're talking about being down and out, and I mean, you were down, like down, 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 the worst ever, you could very well just become an addict and that's it. You don't do anything else. You just want to dull the pain and that's it. But what if we shift the conversation from just using it to dull pain to using it to make the pain more bearable so that you could do the work needed to get better? Like, you have to take the first step. You have to put in the work. And that's how my journey went. Like, there was no party. I wasn't at a festival. I wasn't, raving. I wasn't enjoying myself. I was in absolute and utter pain, emotionally, physically, mentally. I was the worst I had ever been. Um, Gosh, just depression, anxiety, everything you could think of. Just the grief was so all encompassing. And I wanted to, I guess, share that because I know year, this past year and a half now, and at this point, it's been really hard. Like, a lot of us have lost a lot of people due to COVID, people that we never planned on losing, not that way, not that fast. We didn't get to say goodbye. We didn't, like, just a lot has happened. And a lot of us are struggling, but you don't have to struggle alone. Like, yes, you can continue to smoke your joints, but also do the work. Like, see a therapist, reach out to people, go for a walk, smoke a joint and go for a walk, clear your head, focus on one thing, and just try to be productive. It's baby steps. You're not just gonna wake up the next day and feel normal. There's days I wake up and I still don't feel normal. Like, I don't know what normal feels like, but I'm at the point where I know I'm going to be intentional with my days and my moments. And even though Christmas hurts and Mother's Day hurts, I'm still going to try my best to find the joy in those, even without my mother there to celebrate them with me, because that's life, that's living, and we have to live. Yeah. So I'm just like ranting now at this point. Um, but yeah, that's it. So because I've always had that kind of the guilt feeling around how I came to cannabis, and yet I'm living my life and I guess somewhat semi successful because there's a shit ton of more stuff I want to do that I haven't done yet, and I'm really trying to push myself to do it, but also give myself a little bit of grace. I reached out to a therapist by the name of Sequoia Hayes, and she is an affirming therapist who works in the psychedelic community in a way that is beneficial to help people get to their next steps in their mental health journey. Make sure like they're moving forward. And I actually talked to her a couple months ago, but honestly, y'all, I've been scared. That's it. I don't even have an excuse other than the fact that I've just been scared. I've been scared to say it on camera, to put it out there. that I was depressed, that I was grieving beyond, like, if someone had told me you could grieve that much and still live, I would have never believed it. Like, the grief was insurmountable, it felt like. But then I climbed it, and now I'm here. So, like, the story doesn't have to end. It could just be a break in a paragraph, like, you know? And so I did talk to her. That is part two. I want you guys to check out that conversation. No, I'm not a great interviewer. I'm not saying that I'm an awesome interviewer. It's just, I just really wanted to kind of talk to her and figure out what it is that I'm on, my journey, and how it is that I'm using cannabis. Because, you know, if you ask somebody, they'll tell you, you know, you're going to become an addict, you're going to become this, you're going to become that. And I'm not any of those things. Like, there's days that I don't consume because I don't need to. I don't feel the need to. And that's okay too. Like, you know, it's it is what it is. But I'll tell you, like, real shit, cannabis helped me on my mental health journey in a way that nothing else ever could, because it opened up my mind. Now, it cleared my mind to be able to just focus on one thing, but it also opened up my mind to accept the reality of what life is now, and to come up with a way to live that can both honor my past and honor my future. Like, you know, what would it be to give up and shrivel away? That's not honoring my mother. That's what it felt like I wanted to do, because life is scary, and life is even scarier when the only, you know, moral compass that you had is gone, when your safety net is gone, when the person who's always looking out for you, always making, there was always food, making sure you always had a place to lay your head, is gone. That's scary. That's a different kind of fear. That's, I'm really out here on my fucking own making this happen. I have to. And so that's that. So I'm like rambling now. Definitely check out part two of this. Um and let me know what you think.